Whether decades old or more recent, there are almost always people searching for answers to unsolved true crime mysteries. This is especially the case in disturbing crimes, where the thought that the twisted individual is still at large can cause lasting paranoia for the victim's friends and family. Police are still working to try to resolve these unsolved mysteries. Number 5. A Pleasant neighborhood in Des Moines, Iowa, was the last place anybody expected a true crime mystery to begin in the 1960s. But on an ordinary summer's day in 1967, a disturbing criminal came and took the life of Leota Camp for no reason. Leota was a 25-year-old mother of 3 living with her husband Ray. According to friends and the family, the couple had no issues and had recently welcomed a new baby. They could not have predicted the unsolved crime that was about to take place. On July 10th, Leota said goodbye to her husband as she went to work. Ray was a tabulating equipment officer at the Iowa Employment Security Commission. Leota spent the morning going through her chores and looking after the children. She had a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old, as well as a 3-month-old baby. Around mid-morning, the 2 older children went outside to play. Leota joined them not long afterwards to hang their clothing that had just been washed and then went back inside. It was shortly after midday that the children went back inside to ask their mother for lunch. They found their baby sister on her blanket on the living room floor with a warm bottle of milk, but their mother was not there. The children found her in the front bedroom. She was on the bed, her hands tied behind her back and her ankles tied together with a men's necktie. There was also a necktie in her mouth. She had been struck with bladed objects multiple times. The children got their neighbors and authorities were contacted. Police discovered that 2 weapons had been used in the attack. One had been left in the body and the handle of the second was missing. Neighbors reported a suspicious-looking man around Leota's home at midday. He was white and described as handsome, with curly brown hair and wearing a brown and white plaid shirt. He drove a black Ford Mustang and parked near the camp home at 11 a.m. The creepy individual then cut across the camp's front yard and entered the home. The same man was seen leaving the house just before noon. Police trying to solve this disturbing mystery received hundreds of tips, but the crime remained an unsolved case. A motive for the crime was never established. Nothing was stolen from the house, and Leota suffered no wounds other than the bladed objects. More than 50 years on, the police are continuing to investigate and acted on a tip as recently as 2008. Anyone with information on this unsolved mystery can contact the Des Moines Police Department at 515-283-4869. Number 4. The unsolved case of Yuri Shipulin and Natalia Gerasimova sounds more like a work of fiction than a true crime story. The Russian couple disappeared in Fiji, only for parts of their bodies to wash up on the beach weeks later. Yuri and Natalia met in Russia, falling in love while at high school. The two ran a business there, and Yuri had experience as a pilot. He traveled to Fiji a number of times and fell in love with the country. He wanted to move there and open an aviation school, but for some reason the plan didn't work out. The couple still moved to Fiji in 2011, 5 years before the unsolved crime took place. They leased a farm where they grew vegetables. Both Yuri and Natalia also worked as photographers, and Natalia was a primary school teacher. There didn't appear to be any problems for the couple with anyone on the island. A recent hurricane had made it a little more difficult with the farm, but it was nothing too serious. Then the couple mysteriously vanished. Yuri and Natalia left their farm at around midday on June 16, 2016. They were later seen in Denarau later that day enjoying drinks. Nobody who saw them noticed anything out of the ordinary. The following day, Yuri's business partner, Andrew, reported them missing. Andrew co-managed the farm and also lived on the property. He knew something was wrong when the couple and their vehicle were both missing. Police located the vehicle 2 days after the couple was last seen. It was parked at Nadadola Beach with the keys still in the ignition. Yuri and Natalia were nowhere to be found. There were rumors the couple may have left on a yacht. Police investigating the unsolved case contacted Interpol for assistance. They would soon find the couple was much closer to home. On June 24th, a pair of feet were discovered on a nearby beach. They were wrapped in fishing nets. DNA confirmed they belonged to Yuri. 2 days later, Natalia's feet also washed ashore. It was obvious a disturbing crime had taken place. Over the next few weeks, police continued to find body parts on the beach and just offshore. These included Yuri's head and part of Natalia's torso. As police appealed for information, security guards at a local jet ski company reported a disturbing crime. At 3 a.m. on June 17th, the guards came across a mysterious figure on the beach. He was very large and described as white from the hip up and black downwards. The unusual appearance made them believe it was an evil spirit. They didn't chase after the person either. Police believe the figure might have been wearing a wetsuit from the waist down, giving him the strange appearance. One officer said it may have been the criminal responsible for the disturbing crime. The man was never identified, and the case remains unsolved. Number 3. In November of 2013, 2 gardeners working at a house in Surrey, England, made a horrifying discovery. Dumped in a well was the body of a man. He had been the victim of an unsolved crime more than 2 years earlier. The 2 gardeners had been called to clear an area at a house on Audley Drive. The house was home to Polish workers and had seen about 80 young men living here over the past decade. The gardeners cleared away brush and discovered a well. It went down about 4 feet, and at the bottom was a piece of blue tarp. After investigating, the gardeners discovered the tarp was covering a body. The body was in a very bad state. It had been in the well for 2 years, and police eventually identified the victim as Damian Szlajka. Damian was a Polish national who had gone missing 2 years earlier. He had last been seen on April 17, 2011, when he left his home in Thornton Heath to go do some decorating work for a friend. Damian had been living in the UK for a few years when he became the victim of this unsolved crime. He worked as a decorator and at car washes, and had lived at various locations across South London and Surrey. One of those locations was Audley Road. Police could not determine what exactly led to his passing, but believed many of his bones had been broken while he was still alive. Early into the investigation in this unsolved crime, 10 different people were arrested, but none were ever charged. One report stated police hit roadblocks as potential suspects passed away during their interrogation. There were multiple appeals for information early on, and the unsolved case appeared on BBC Crime Watch. A decade after Damian lost his life, the case remains an unsolved mystery. Anyone with information is asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 0800 555 111. Number 2. Jeremy Jerome Jackson was last seen alive when he told his brother he was going to run to a friend's house. The next morning, his head was found on the front steps of a house in Jackson, Mississippi. The strange true crime remains a mystery 5 years later. Jeremy was 30 years old in June of 2017. He was a father to 3 children and studying business management at university. According to his family, he wasn't involved in anything criminal. He had fallen in with a bad crowd while a teenager, but had since turned his life around. The last day of Jeremy's life started positive. He went to his brother's house for a haircut, then went to a job interview at a restaurant. Jeremy was offered the job. In the afternoon, he mowed the lawn before telling his brother he was running to a friend's house. He said he would be back, but he met with foul play on the trip and never made it home. It wouldn't be until the following morning that Jeremy's family realized anything was wrong. The Jackson Police Department got a call about a strange and disturbing sight. The head of a man was sat on the stairs of a small white house on Deer Park Street. When police arrived, one recognized the man. One of the officers was Jeremy's cousin. The rest of the family was alerted to the creepy crime. None of them knew the house or any connection Jeremy may have had to it. Police investigating the disturbing case found no signs of Jeremy's body at the house. It seemed like the crime scene was elsewhere. His body was soon found less than a mile away in a wooded residential area. Despite a reward for information, Jeremy's case hasn't progressed much. A criminal psychologist who looked at the case believed this wasn't the first crime this scary individual had committed, and it was likely that more than one person was involved. The nature of the attack suggested something personal, but Jeremy's family couldn't think of anyone who would want to hurt him so violently. It also seemed whoever committed this terrifying crime wanted to send a message, but to who remains another unsolved mystery. Anyone with information on this case can contact Crime Stoppers at 601-355-8477. Number 1. In a matter of minutes, Marie Wilkes was kidnapped from the side of the highway in 1988. Her family's hope that she would be safely returned was dashed when her body was found a few days later. It was June 18, 1988, when the disturbing unsolved crime took place. Marie had gone to visit her husband at an army camp in Herefordshire, where he worked as an instructor. She had taken her 1-year-old son and 11-year-old sister. Later that day, she was driving home with the children on the M50 highway when the oil warning light of her vehicle came on. Marie had only passed her driver's test a few months earlier and didn't want to risk damaging the car, so she pulled over onto the hard shoulder and got out of the car. Marie told her sister to wait there while she called for help. Marie walked half a mile to the nearest emergency telephone and placed a call at 7:37 p.m. She asked the operator to call her father so that he would come and pick her up. It took less than 5 minutes for the operator to call Marie's father and learn that he wasn't home. The operator returned to the call with Marie to tell her, but found there was nobody on the other end. In those 5 minutes, someone had snatched Marie. Police later found Marie's sister standing beside the car with the baby. It was then that they realized something strange had happened. A search for Marie took place, and her family made appeals to the scary individual who had taken her to let her come home. There was hope that this was a kidnapping for ransom case, but unfortunately, that would not turn out to be the case. A witness reported seeing a car stopped and facing the wrong direction behind a crash barrier shortly after Marie had been snatched. When police investigated the location, they found Marie's body in the undergrowth. She had been struck with a bladed weapon and passed away shortly after she was last seen. Other witnesses described seeing a similar car near the site of the phone box, and a man who looked to be in his early 20s with short blonde hair. A sketch of the man was released, and police received countless tips. One led police to a man named Eddie Browning. Browning had a history of violence and had been driving between Wales and Scotland when the unsolved crime took place. Browning denied any involvement and said that he hadn't used the M50 that day. Despite this, he was found guilty and given a 25-year prison sentence. Just a few years later, the Court of Appeals quashed the ruling as police had withheld evidence during the trial. No other suspect was ever identified, and the case has long since become an unsolved cold case mystery. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.